Now, why, I don't know. It was, to me, a complete puzzle, because, but I think she'd been trained to respect mathematics, and, you know, making models was just sort of hit and miss. You didn't need any brains for it. But I think the real reason she didn't get the answer is she wasn't in the slightest interested in DNA. She was a physical chemist. She went to King's supposedly to work on proteins, was told to work on DNA. And then when, you know, she didn't get along with the people, she just decided to pack in and give it up. And she was moving to another laboratory. So she didn't love DNA. I don't know if she disliked it, but she had no passion for or curiosity. Yeah. So that was great luck for me. And because I had, you know, the only thing, it was very easy, and the only thing I thought about was DNA. It was very lucky that there were no girls in Cambridge. You know, that would have been diverting. You know, what if I'd fallen in love and unhappy? Or, you know, so Cambridge, I'm sure that in those days was a better place for science than it is today. Because, you know, too many girls. You know, the famous Eagle pup, there was never a girl in the Eagle when we were talking. We just talked science. You know, the Eagle was largely populated by homosexuals from King's College. It was a very safe place to be. I mean. So you have to talk to your competitors. You can say, well, you know, it was Maurice Wilkins, a friend of his, and he got left out. But it wasn't true, because we found the structure. I told him to build models after he showed me the B form, and he said he wasn't going to build models for 3 months until Rosalind Franklin left King's. I said, you're crazy. You know, someone at Caltech will tell Pauling he's wrong. And then Pauling will, you know, come up with the right answer. The truth is, well, at Caltech, no one would dare tell Linus Pauling he was wrong. Or yeah, that's maybe the wrong interpretation. The other is no one at Caltech cared about DNA, and so no one read his paper and knew he was wrong. I think that's probably the right answer. You know, it's hard now to think back then when proteins were big and DNA was just a sort of curiosity of biologists, and biologists were not as bright as chemists, and chemists weren't as bright as physicists, and weren't as bright as mathematicians. So we were very low in the way people thought. But after we had the structure, and Wilkins came up and saw the structure, we asked him to put his name on the paper. And it's not in the double-helix, I'd forgotten it, but it's in Wilkins' autobiography, so I know that he said, and then he realized he hadn't found the structure, so I think he felt it would be slightly cheating to put his name on it. But then he said that after saying no, the rest of his life he thought it was the biggest mistake of his life, not putting, but then Sir Lawrence Bragg, who got the Nobel Prize back in 1914, or 15, it was 15, I think, you know, intervened with the Swedes so that Wilkins got the prize together with Crick and I. So it was fair because he was vital, you know, it wouldn't have come off. We just were there for, you know, that final nice day when you see the answer. Now, and then you could say, well, why did Pauling fail? And part of the reason was he really acted like he was a god. Yeah, the divine truth, revelation came to him. And he never got help from anyone else. And so our rule was, or the rule was, never be the brightest person in a room. So never go to the university where you're the brightest person. Never teach at a university where you're the brightest person. Always be in a place where there are other people who can help you. Okay. So you can say, well, logically, there's always going to be one person brighter than everyone else, but what does that person do? But in reality, we're only bright in one thing or another, and if you really spread it over, we all need help. And there's probably too much when you're young of saying, you know, you have to do it all by yourself. You know, early on, I decided if my mother would write the help me, it was good. So I always accepted help whenever I could get it. And things go faster. Okay. You know, maybe, you know, you could say it's cheating, but I don't think it's cheating because the only thing that matters is the answer. Okay, so you should always, and that's why I think, you know, we all want to go to a good university or get a job in a good university. It's where we can get intellectually challenged. And so we would have never had the Crick, or I would have never got the structure if there hadn't been in the room with us someone who was a quantum chemist trained at Caltech who told me that the structures that I was using to make base pairs for guanine and thymine, they were eno, and he said they're keto. The hydrogens, you know, have the hydrogens the wrong way. After learning that fact, we had the base pairs the next morning, and you know, by noon we knew we'd solved the problem. So it was help. You know, when you think, how are you going to solve a problem in chemistry when you know no chemistry? You're going to need a chemist's help. And we got it. And then the last rule I said was, always have someone to save you if you fail. You know, what if your 3 years are up and you've got nothing because you know, tried something very difficult? I think the answer is you should never get yourself in that situation unless you know there's someone who will give you another fellowship. So you have another 3 years. So you always have to have someone to save you. And you know, you're too old for your parents to save you, and your girl or boyfriend can't save you. It's got to be some older person. So you've got to somehow be liked. If you're a totally dislikable person, don't go into science. Yeah. I mean, because having friends, you know, you've got to be social. There's a lot of things, you know, it's just thinking, but so much of it is social interaction. So the people who really can inspire other people or get help from them, they're the ones that finally make it. They're the occasional, you know, autistic individual, you know, creepy sort who do something. You know, the most frightening example is this mathematician Ginsberg in St. Petersburg. You know, solved this big problem, and they've offered him $1 million if he shows up in Boston, but he's schizophrenic. I mean, he's crazy.